What's up, guys? It's here, the Battlegrounds guide slash tips video slash whatever you want to call it, I guess. You guys have been asking for this for a while. I wanted to wait till the season was over just so that I had a bit more experience and kind of like more assurance in what I was talking about. So, just quickly sum up this season, I played 773 matches all on stream, by the way. But as you can see here by the win loss counter, we won 396, lost 377, and we ended up finishing C5. That's not to say that I'm some amazing player. No, there's a bunch of people who are better than me. But I have a little bit of an idea of what I'm talking about because I have played the game mode quite a bit. Obviously, a lot of people know more. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But today I just wanted to give over some tips and tricks of a lot of stuff that I've learned like the past two seasons, having pushed a lot in Battlegrounds. And obviously I'm still learning, so as I learn more, I'll inform you guys as well. But today we're just gonna go over some of those tips and tricks and then do a live match in unranked to kind of walk you through my thought process of what I'm thinking about as I'm playing a match. And yeah, it's gonna be a long one, so definitely like buckle in. Hope you guys enjoy. But yeah, hopefully it's helpful too. So before we begin, some things that you need to know before you even start playing the game mode, arguably. Because also, like playing the game is your biggest teacher. But first of all, one big misconception I had even myself is all these guys, you see them finishing C1, C2, C3, C4, C5, C6, anywhere high, really. Like, I was thinking, man, these guys must be so good. You must be winning, like, so many games. And I realized, like, while, yes, these people are very good at the game, it's a numbers game. You got to play a lot of matches to get up there. And it's not really so much about win percentage. So as you can see, like, my win percentage was only 51%. I just played so many games that I eventually got enough points to finish where I wanted to finish. So don't necessarily worry about winning every match you play. Obviously the goal is to win, but like a loss isn't as big of a deal as it feels like it is in the moment. Cuz at the end of the day, the more matches you play, the higher you'll get. Now, does that mean you want to hit, C5 but you only want to play 100 matches this season? I don't know if that's going to happen, right? Odds are you're going to have to win a lot more of those matches if you're not playing that many games. So, I mean, again, and if you don't want to play that many games, that's totally fine. But don't expect to finish, at a super high rank, depending on how much you play. But yeah, just a little thing about that. Second is it's easy to learn by watching other people play the game. And I don't just mean me. There are players better than me that stream Battlegrounds consistently. You can watch Liam, Tilapia, Cantona, which, speaking of Cantona also has some Battlegrounds tips and tricks videos that I recommend watching as well. Tilapia, MSD, Lags, Andy, Barrow, Nick, the list goes on and on and on. A lot of great MCOC content creators out there that stream Battlegrounds. So definitely watch other people play, just because they might try a matchup that you haven't tried, and you get to see how it goes, whether it goes well or it goes poorly, right? So now you know for the future. There's just so much you can learn by watching other people play. But now we're actually going to get into, the real content of the video. Sorry for the long, I guess, intro-ish, but first up, we have deck building. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at my deck here. It's not exactly finalized yet because this is off season and we have a new season coming up. So it's kind of something I just threw together for the new meta, which obviously the biggest aspect to deck building is the meta. So in this meta, we have Invade. So you're going to want champs who deal a lot of block damage, ideally. So champs like Valkyrie, Hulkling, Yelena are going to be really, really good in this meta. Massacre, if you have him ranked. Stuff like that. And if you want to know who's good for this meta and the next meta after this for this season specifically, I have a video coming out, let's see, 2 days from this being posted on Monday, so 2 days before season starts, about the top 10 best attackers and defenders for both metas this season so that you know who to rank up if you want to rank up champs for this season. On that note, it is always better to rank up champs for the last meta than the first meta. Why is that? Because I always heard people say that. I didn't really understand it until I started playing the game mode more. Basically, your rank doesn't, like, it doesn't matter where you are at the start, because at the end, everybody else has played so many more matches, so your score is going to drop significantly based on, or your rank is going to drop significantly based on your score. So if you get to 200 points week 1, you might be top 20 in the world at that point. But by week 4, you're what, like top 10k, I think, because people have played so many games. So it's better to prioritize the last week, because that's the week that you are actually going to have to play to keep your score higher and higher and higher as those cutoffs raise. So for example, like someone like Liam last season literally did not start playing until the last week of the season, and it was a 6-week season, and he finished C2. Now, do I recommend that? Not necessarily, because obviously, like, Liam's his own case, right? That dude's cracked. It definitely helps to play the earlier metas to kind of give you a better starting point to continue playing, because, like, personally, there's some decks down in the lower ranks that are just ridiculously stacked, and that can be hard to fight against, even if you're a high skill player, right? So you could get unlucky and end up being trapped in those middle ranks longer than you need to be if you don't give yourself a nice starting point by playing consistently. But that's why you should rank for the last meta. Before even ranking, the most important thing for your deck is make sure you set your stat focuses and make sure everyone has a relic, because relics are very important offensively and now defensively. So if you have champs that are primarily defenders, make sure you're putting stat cast relics on your defenders, just because they give you, it plays a factor in defense. It might not be the biggest factor, but every little bit helps. So, like, for example, my Kindred, well, I guess actually bad example, High Evo currently has a Spider-Man 2099 relic. I never use this guy on offense. I should take that off, put a Statcast relic on. Kindred has the Dr. Doom relic, right? Energy penetration. Kindred does the degen damage. That's helpful. Who else? Domino, Colossus relic. This was just to make her a little bit more tanky in the last meta, because it was such a nuke meta. Maybe not necessarily needed. Bad example, Bullseye currently does not have a relic on because I wasn't running him in the deck, right? I should put that back on. Iron Man on the Zola relic makes him a little bit more tanky. As far as Battlecast goes, that's a completely different story. Battlecast, right? Certain Battlecast are great for certain champs. Perfect example, my Venom has the Venom Battlecast at rank 5. Makes him a completely different champ. My Scorpion has the Hulk Battlecast because it increases the rupture damage on the special too. Kushala has the Scarlet Witch because of the blessings. Valk has Valk. A lot of Battlecasts are very good for specific characters, but that's a whole separate thing. If you guys want a video on that, I can do a video on that. But yeah, just basically make sure you have stat focus on and a Battlecast or stat cast on, depending on, offense and defense type of thing. Number 3. So now we're actually getting into, number 3. Now we're actually getting into deck building. Is make sure you have counters to defenders that you are running. So you, like, for example, I feel like Captain Britain is probably the perfect example of this. I have Captain Britain in the deck. I need to make sure I have Jack at least. So I have Jack that can do Britain. Prowler can do Britain, not amazing, but can do it. And I just ranked up Sentinel. I'm actually not sure how well Sentinel does Britain. But normally, if it was like a normal meta, I'd be running like Maker as well. Bastion works well. You always want to make sure you have at least 2, I would say, counters to your defenders. It's, again, it changes by meta. So, like, who's a really, really strong defender this meta in Invade? Serpent. If you do not have Kushala in your deck and you have Serpent in your deck, this meta, honestly, maybe just take Serpent out the deck and ban him. Because Serpent is a menace this meta in Invade. And Kushala, in my opinion, is the best counter for him this meta, just because you can heal a lot of that block damage up. Potentially Doctor Strange would work really well too, but he's not out as a 7-star yet. Alternatives to Serpent counters, right? Nico is very good. In a Norma meta, shuts him down. In this meta, still good, just not quite as good as Kushala is at it. Paviter, in this meta, I do not like Paviter because of Invade. So, you know, I'm not running him at the moment, which means that I only have 1 Dark Phoenix counter in the deck. So, being Nico. So I might want to, you know, ban Nico, which kind of goes later on into the strategy. But make sure you're running counters to your own defenders so that you are not left screwed. For example, I guess another example, right? Like Thing, in this meta, I'm not running Crossbones, but I'm running Valkyrie because of Invade. Caro can do Thing kind of fine. Nico does Thing. A lot of champs can do Thing now. He's not as scary. Bullseye can do Thing and Invade. Just make sure you don't screw yourself, because it's not worth running a defender if you can't counter them yourselves, because if they place that defender down, you just lose the round, right? You never just want to lose a round before the round starts. On that note, note number 4, high rank champs have value. Now, this is mainly for someone, like I'm talking to people who don't have 30 plus rank 4s, or depending on where you're at, 30 plus rank 3s, 30 plus rank 2s, 30 plus 7-stars, right? You know, you could put yourself in whatever category you're in. The list goes on and on and on. What this means is, let's say you have 20 rank 4s, and one of them is Idum, because you ranked him for Prestige. He's not the best Battlegrounds champion, but he's probably still worth putting in the deck because he's rank 4. And, you know, he has a little bit more attack, a little bit more health. It doesn't mean you're going to draft him, but it might be better to see a rank 4 Idum than, you know, a random rank 3 that isn't ideal for the meta. Now, at the same time, sometimes there are champs that you don't have ranked that are just, you know, ranked to your highest, that are just so good for the meta that you should be running them over rank 4s anyway. So for example, my Bullseye is not rank 4. Bullseye's insane in Invade. Ideally, I would rank for him, but I don't have the materials for that right now. But he's going to be in the deck. Wolf, I can't rank for Wolf right now, but he's really good for Invade. He's going to rank 3. He's going to be in the deck, even though he's only going to be rank 3. And by the time this meta starts, I will be almost at exactly 40 or 30 rank 4s. So technically, you know, I shouldn't be having rank 3s in the deck. Sometimes it matters. A perfect example of this, I feel like, Count Nefaria. A lot of people have rank 4 Count Nefarias. And he's not the greatest Battlegrounds champ, but a rank 4 Count Nefaria is going to do some work that, you know, maybe a rank 3 other science champ isn't, right? Maybe like a Silk. Silk is good in Battlegrounds, but probably not as good as a rank 4 Nefaria. I hope that makes sense. Finally, bans. Bans is like its own beast. Again, very meta dependent. I have a video coming out on Monday about this meta specifically, but how I like to do bans is I like to ban round winners, which is something we'll cover in the drafting portion of this video. Round winners basically can be attackers or defenders, right? And it's someone that you put that champ down either on defense and you know that you're going to stall enough or do enough damage that you, as long as you play well in attack, you're good, or an attacker that you know, as long as your defender can stall a little bit, you're winning the round. So let's kind of go over some of them. Obviously, it changes meta to meta. You know, if metas didn't exist, defenders, this would be like Serpent, Dark Phoenix, Britain, where Yelena probably, but she's kind of has more counters now. Like Deathless Thanos, I wouldn't consider in most metas to be a round winner, just because technically there are more options that can do Deathless Thanos. It's just his protection makes him a round winner in certain metas, like the next meta, and in Invade because his unstoppable on block. But that's all relative. Attackers, Deadpool X-Force is a really good example. It's very hard to lose a round when you're using this guy on attack, as long as you have a relevant defender. Stark Spidey in a Norma meta, I would consider him a round winner. In Invade specifically, Valkyrie is a round winner. Hulkling is a round winner. I'm not running Massacre because I don't have him ranked. Rank 4 Sig 200 Massacre might be the best attacker for Invade. I'm going to be banning rank 4 Sig 200 Massacre if I see him, because I know that realistically, regardless of who I put down, if they have Massacre, they're probably winning that round, with an exception of like maybe Zola and Yelena. Yeah, that's probably it. Maybe Thanos again because of that block unstoppable thing. But that's kind of how I like to view my bans. Another way you could view it is, let's say specifically your skill class is really weak. Once again, I'm going to use Liam as an example. Liam bans Photon, Spider-Woman, and like High Evo or Thing just because he personally doesn't like using Okoye. And Okoye is the best skill attacker and shuts down all three of those defenders, not counting Thing. She's bad for that. If you don't run Crossbones, maybe you ban Thing, right? So he tends to ban science champs. So you can also depending on how your deck is built, it affects your bans. I hope that makes sense. I typically like to do the round winner strat. So this meta, I think I'm banning Massacre, potentially Dark Phoenix, or like Red Skull, because they're both really good defenders in this meta. And I think I'm going to ban Cassandra Nova, just because you can kind of play her without playing Invade. You just play her normal, and that gives her the safety net with like the stun and stuff to do specific fights. Mainly Zola, which Zola is very difficult to deal with this meta because of the heavy attacks if you don't have like a Carolina Dean. So that's kind of what I'm thinking for my bans. Hasn't officially locked in yet, and obviously it's subject to change depending on like the roster of the opponent. If you match someone with only 3 rank 4s, it might be a good idea to just ban their rank 4s, right? It depends on who they are, stuff like that. With rank 5s and rank 6s now in the game, if I see a rank 6, I don't care who it is, I'm banning it. If I see a rank 5 that I don't have, I'm going to ban it. If I do have them, depending on who it is, I'm probably going to leave it open. So, yeah, just a little bit of info to my banning philosophy. This whole video is going to be a lot of yapping, and I apologize about that. I hope you're following. If you have any questions or are confused, drop it in the comments, and I'm very sorry. But that kind of concludes the deck building section of the video. Now we're going to go and talk about drafts. So, first thing I do when I'm drafting is prioritize dual threats. So these are champs that you can use on attack and defense relatively well. So a great example of this, again, if we're in like a neutral meta, Nico, arguably best Mystic attacker in the game, arguably best Mystic defender in the game. It's really, really easy to say, see Nico, draft Nico. Let's see, Jean is decent enough on defense still that she's a dual threat, one of the best attackers in the game. Very easy to say, see Jean, draft Jean. Deathless Thanos in a normal meta, same way. One of the best dual threats in the game. Very good attacker, very good defender. See Thanos, draft Thanos. Yelena, specifically in Invade, is a must draft. I don't care who you have already. If you see Yelena for Invade, draft Yelena. She's ridiculously strong, both offensively and defensively, because of the way that she shuts down the node. So it gives her protection and, on defense makes her a stall. See Yelena, draft Yelena this meta. But Sentinel, I think, is still considered a dual threat, but his defensive value has kind of dropped a decent amount. Spider-Woman used to be a great case of this. Now I don't think she's actually that good of a defender. So she kind of maybe has fallen out of that category as well. But biggest thing, just focus on dual threats. And if you're considering champs to rank up, dual threats are always priority, in my opinion, over like straight attackers or straight defenders. So someone like an Okoye, I wouldn't rank her before Jean. And someone like High Evo, I wouldn't rank before Spider-Woman, even though, her defensive value has fallen off. Now, another thing is comfort champs. So this, I think, is like the next most important tip when drafting. Someone could be, or like a character could be the best character in the game. But if you don't like playing them, then it might not benefit you that much to draft them. Whereas another champ who's, slightly worse, but still good, that you are very comfortable with, might be better. So this is relative to every individual person, obviously. But a great example, like Crossbones and Black Cat. Most people have one in the deck. I personally enjoy both of them. I think I do like Black Cat more, but I've kind of transitioned over to Crossbones just because of his utility. But if you don't like Crossbones and you like Black Cat, run Black Cat, draft Black Cat, right? Stark Spidey is a big comfort champ for me. I feel like when I have Stark Spidey in my draft, then I feel good about winning one round because I'm very comfortable playing him on attack. He's probably my highest win rate attacker I have just because of my comfort playing him. And it just makes me feel better about the match knowing I have Stark Spidey in my pocket because I'm comfortable with him. Someone like Shocker. Some champs don't like, or some people don't like using Shocker. Shocker's an incredible nuke. If you don't like him, maybe you don't have to run him. If you do like him, you should probably draft him, right? Venom. Venom is a good comfort champ because arguably Venom might not be a top 30 champ in the game, even with the Relic. Sorry, half. So maybe you don't necessarily should be running him in a perfect deck, but if you like him, run him. Stuff like that. It gets tricky depending on where you're at in the draft to like draft a comfort champ, but like for example, Stark Spidey, because he has a lot of uses and he is one of my comfort champs. If I see him early, I'm probably going to draft him regardless of what the situation is. I'm sure there's other like champs in that tier as well. Jean is considered one, but she's like so OP that she's a must draft anyway. Just draft champs that you like playing and are comfortable playing because that's what matters at the end of the day. Next, draft round winners. So this is what we were talking about in the ban side of things. What is a round winner? Basically, I put you down and I win on defense, or I put you down, I win on attack. So someone like Shocker is a round winner just because he's going to end the fight in like 30 to 40 seconds, as provided, he's high enough rank and high enough sig. Typical defenders, Serpent, Dark Phoenix, Thanos, Yelena, are very much round winners. In this meta, like I said, Valk, Hulkling, Massacre, absolutely are round winners. So if I see those champs in this meta, I'm going to draft them because they can take most of the defenders because of the way that they work with this meta. And you want that. You want the safety and security of knowing that, like, if I put this champ down on attack or defense, I should win this round, provided I have a good enough alternative on the other side of the field. It's a lot harder now with defenders because a lot of the meta defenders have sufficient counters now. It, again, is kind of relative by meta. So, like, Zola right now doesn't have a ton of counters in the invade meta, so he would be a round winner, in my opinion, on defense. So I might be more inclined to draft, like, Zola over Britain, for example, because Britain kind of has more options because of the invade node and like gaining power by hitting block, that she feels weaker in invade on defense, in my opinion. Next, we go to rerolls. So in my opinion, rerolls should be used when the opponent has a round winner that you don't have an option for. So the easiest example of this is they have 1 or 2 Cosmic Defenders, and you have no Mystics. And you're at, like... Personally, I think you should only use rerolls when you're at 5 out of 7 champs or 4 out of 7 champs. Most of the time. Every once in a while, you're, like, early and you get a really, really bad set of 5. But if you're building a good enough deck, that shouldn't happen too much. I like to use rerolls as late as possible just because I want as much information on the other side as I possibly can. So, like I said, if they have a Serpent or a Dark Phoenix and you don't have Mystics and you've already drafted 5 champs and this is your last set and there's no Mystics there, use a reroll, hope you get a Mystic, and if you don't, you're probably going to lose the match. Straight up. Because now they have a round winner and you don't have an option for it, so that's automatically a round loss. Which really sucks. Same can be said for like Domino if you don't have a tech champ or like an ability accuracy champ like a Kushala. You're probably going to lose the round. So definitely save your rerolls for that. And don't use them unless you have to, because rerolls are so important when you're like actually playing it. It makes the match a little bit less RNG dependent. Sometimes you still get screwed, but it just makes it feel safer. So don't use them unless you have to. And that when you have to is when if you don't get a specific counter, you're going to lose the match before it even starts. That's when you should be using your rerolls. As far as like draft order, so some people say don't draft defenders until last or don't draft attackers until last. Obviously it's relative. It depends on what you have in front of you. If you're drafting dual threats, then that becomes less of an issue. But personally, if I see like, I try to do 1 and 1 when I get sets of 2, or like when I'm given a set of 5. Let's say I have like Deathless Thanos in there, Serpent in there, and I guess for this meta, like Valkyrie and Hulkling, right? I might draft Serpent and Valkyrie, because now I have a really good attacker and a really good defender, rather than doubling up and grabbing Hulkling and Valk and being attacker heavy, or Serpent and Thanos and being defender heavy, because if they get counters, now you're kind of lopsided, and you have to do some ulterior things. But I don't know, it definitely changes instance to instance, right? But typically I like to spread it out so I don't overcommit to anything, because Battlegrounds is a little bit like chess, where I see what they have and now I have to come up with a counter for it, while they're also looking at what I have and trying to anticipate what I'm going to put on defense and counter that. So they have to draft counters to my defenders, I have to draft counters to their defenders, and it's like, if you don't draft attackers that counter their defenders, you're screwed, and vice versa. And if like you wouldn't draft a defender into a counter. So if someone has, I don't know, Thing, if someone has Crossbones already, don't draft Thing, because he's just not good. He's not a good defender if they have Crossbones. So you wouldn't want to draft that into that. And sometimes that screws you if you're at like round 6, right? You've already drafted 6 and you only have 1 or 2 defenders. And you're like, well, I need a defender. And the only defender that pops up is Thing. It's like, well, now I'm screwed because they have Crossbones and this is useless. And sometimes you just have to draft it anyway and take the loss in that round. But if you try to spread things out, that happens less, which is kind of why I try to do 1 and 1. On that note of drafting counters, or drafting defenders into counters, there is one situation where that does kind of work sometimes. That's what I call the overwhelm strategy. Basically, this happens when like early in the match, maybe I draft Serpent and Thanos, and they get Kushala. So this is what you would call splitting the attacker. You're splitting that Kushala, because now they have to pick if they're going to use it for Serpent or Thanos. Let's say they finish their draft, and that's the only defender, that's the only Mystic attacker that they got. And now I pop up, I see Maestro. I'm going to take that Maestro because now I have 3 Cosmic Defenders, and they only have 1 Mystic attacker. Which means I can afford to lose 1 round, and I should still win the match, because they have poor matchups in 2 out of the 3. And they have to pick who they want to use that Kushala on, which is probably going to be their if they're smart with their worst matchup, which we'll talk about that later, technically sometimes you can do this with 3 and 2, but I only recommend doing that if you have like a sure win on offense kind of round. So in that case, let's say they have Kushala and Nico, and you have Thanos, Serpent, and Maestro. It is very possible to lose a Thanos and Serpent versus Nico and Kushala matchup. So you have to be confident in your attacker for one of those two in order to do that strategy with like 3 versus 2. So it's a little bit more risky. That's why it only works sometimes. But I don't know. Something I like to do occasionally, depending on the situation, which, you know, I don't know. It's up to you if you want to do that or not. I know some people like don't do that, but only occasionally. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You have to be confident in your attacking if you're going to do that. So that's kind of like drafting, and I know it's a lot of just words, which is why we're going to do a live match after I'm done kind of going over everything, so you can kind of see the thought process in action. Finally, getting to like actually playing the game. A lot of it is who to place and when. So that we're probably just going to hop right into a match because that's easier to explain while playing. But essentially, it's like, do I place my best defender first or second or third? You know, who do I try to bait out on offense? Stuff like that. And then, again, throwing around. It's very important to know when you should throw, especially if, like, they put their best defender down that you don't have a counter for, and you have a defender that has, like, they have the best counter in the game for. So, like, our Thing example, right? Where you drafted that Thing late, and that's an easy round loss if you put Thing down because they have Crossbones, but they put Britain down first, and you don't have a Britain counter. So you were already going to lose that round anyway. It's like, okay, cool. I'm going to throw down Thing. You're going to use Crossbones, and you're going to win your guaranteed win, but you also wasted your guaranteed win defender. So this is an easy throw around for me. Now I have to focus on the next two. Situations like that. Again, you also have to be careful because sometimes you can screw yourself. But let's go ahead and hop into an unranked match here. I can kind of explain my battle strategy as we're actually playing, and then we'll reiterate, you know, the whole thing. How I'm banning, how I'm drafting, how I'm actually playing, and what I'm thinking about in a match and in a live context. If this would actually put us into a match, hopefully, because this is a long queue for unranked, I'm not going to lie. Cool. I think. Maybe not? Okay, cool. Alright. Little buggy there, but we're good. So, this is a really long video. My goodness, I'm sorry. Yeah, we were indeed yapping. So, first thing I'm looking at, right? No rank 5s. That's good to know. I like to scroll to the bottom just to see like what kind of roster I'm dealing with. In this meta, so I'm going to ban Imperiosa. I'm going to ban Dust. I'm going to ban Enchantress. Because Dust and Enchantress are really good defenders in this meta. Imperiosa is a very good attacker. I also would have considered banning Chi, just because she's a good attacker as well that I don't have ranked. He banned Kero, really good ban, Britain, and Okoye. I don't agree with the Britain and Okoye bans in this meta. So he just drafted an attacker first. He went with the dog. I'm going to grab a round winner on defense, that is Zola in this meta, and a dual threat on attack. Again, not as much so in this meta, but Jean Grey still Jean Grey. That's a great first round of draft for me. I feel good. So now, I believe, can Scream do Zola? Scream can probably do Zola. Huh, honestly, Guardian probably can too. He went Jean, that's another attacker. Guardian is another attacker. He has 3 attackers. He's very attacker heavy right now. I'm going to grab Kindred and Yelena. Again, in this meta, if you see Yelena, draft Yelena. Busted. Absolutely busted. Yelena is a dual threat this meta. I can use her on attack or defense. And it's also another defender that he has to consider. He has Jean, so Jean kind of counters Yelena, so I'm probably going to use her offensively. That's okay. He doesn't necessarily have a great Kindred counter. We should be fine there. I'm going to draft Serpent, because while Dog can do Serpent, it's not the easiest fight. And then I think I'm going to draft Sentinel as an extra attacker. So his only defenders right now are Bullseye and Onslaught. And I think I'm going to draft Sentinel. Sentinel's not like necessarily great for Onslaught, but I might use him for Bullseye or something. I'm not exactly sure. This is kind of worst case scenario because I don't really use Sentinel. Because I just ranked him up, but it is what it is. So you drafted Chavez for Serpent, which I imagine in this meta isn't exactly ideal. And then he got Zola. So I also do not have a counter to Zola right now. So that's potentially a throw round for me, just because Zola is that strong this meta. But we got Hulkling, who, like I said, is one of the best attackers in the game this meta. So I'm going to go ahead and draft Hulkling, because I don't necessarily need more defenders. I hope that made sense, kind of walking you through everything. He just put down Zola. I do not have a great Zola counter. So now I'm going to think, what's his worst matchup? I'm not sure how well Gladiator takes Zola, so I'm just going to put down Zola as well. Because Gladiator could be really good for that. I don't know. That's on me. I need to be more experienced in certain matchups. But that's okay. I think I'm going to do Hulkling. This isn't exactly an ideal matchup, but it can work. And I'm probably going to screw it up because I'm playing live and I'm not the best at fighting Zola. So, the thing about Zola is you have to knock him down, and in Invade, that hurts. So right here, I want him to throw a heavy, but I don't necessarily want to bait a heavy because that happens. And then yeah, Zola sucks because of the heavy reach. Come on. There's a way to punish that. I just don't know how. I'm not gonna lie to you. This is bad that I'm getting hit. I should have used the indestructible to trigger the sleep. I'm pretty bad at fighting Zola with Hulkling, so this is gonna be a rough example. I'm probably gonna lose this round and this match now because of this, because he got that late round Zola. Good thing about relics is it gives you that free opening, which is especially good against Zola. But yeah, we're probably cooked. And again, Hulkling is really, really tanky, which is great for this. With that regen, even though I ate, a couple hits. And look at that. Look at how much block damage we just took. That's why Zola's a menace this meta. So it's already cooked. I've played this poorly. We're just gonna... Oh, okay, I meant to throw a special too. We're cooked. We've already lost. But if Gladiator shut this down, then it's okay. Because I never had a chance of winning anyway. I'm just gonna go ahead and let Zola kill me. And we'll kind of see how Gladiator did. Who knows? Maybe Gladiator is a great Zola counter. Nice. Yeah, I'm assuming because of the Intimidate and the stun on the mediums and stuff. That makes sense. So, because I was unsure of how Gladiator did against Zola, and I knew I was bad against Zola, I did the mirror matchup. Because I was like, hey, maybe Gladiator's a really good counter, actually, and I can afford the loss. Now, I'm going to put Serpent down because he has Kushala, he has Chavez, but I imagine Chavez takes a good amount of block damage. She can heal that back, yes, but she's not going to heal it back, like, significantly. And then I'm going to go ahead and use Yelena on attack here for Onslaught. Just because he has Jean, so Yelena's not going to be as effective on defense. And then I want Yelena as an option for attack later for that Bullseye. And Sentinel isn't the greatest against Onslaught because of the Incinerate and stuff. So this fight, I'm literally just going to play it fully invade. I crit through block, so we're going to chunk him down pretty well. Okay, I'm just playing poorly today. That's fine. I apologize. Just throw the special 2. He's almost dead. I can get a little bit of willpower healing here. I don't even really have to bait this. Yeah, okay, cool. We killed him. If I didn't get hit, that would have been a guaranteed win. But now it's kind of up in the air. I'm not sure how Chavez does for this. Honestly, we're probably fine because she's probably doing like 60 seconds fastest. And she has to take some block damage. So now, while I have this time, I'm going to start thinking round 3. So the dog is a really, really good attacker this meta. He's also a decent option for Kindred, even in invade. I think I'm going to put Kindred on defense still, and I'll probably use Jean regardless of who he puts down. So this is a situation where in real season, my Sentinel would be rank 4, and I would feel much more confident about this situation. Because I would probably just use Sentinel on attack regardless of who he put down. And honestly, I might still use Sentinel on attack, because he's 100% going to put down... He might not put down Bullseye. Because Bullseye is a good attacker this meta as well. So we'll see. We're going to have to see how this shakes out. But we did end up winning that round. As you can see, she took, 61%. And it took her much longer to finish that fight. So I was correct in thinking that Serpent was a guaranteed round win. But it wouldn't have been the way I played against Zola. So it's, yeah, stuff like that. I don't know. We are yapping, and this is going to be like a 45-minute video. I greatly apologize. Okay, he is putting Bullseye down. I am going to put Kindred down just because if Kindred catches you and you take that degen damage, it's a rough time. Because... Yeah, because my Sentinel is only rank 3, I think I'm going to use Jean here. This is another comfort situation where I'm more comfortable playing Jean. Sentinel's probably the better option to go with there, though. And then, because of the way you gain power this meta, I'm just going to play this like Invade and throw Special 1 when I get it to get those Neros up. This meta is also very AI reliant. So here I'm going to just do a special intercept. Right, now I have 4 Neros up. And then if I get to a special 2, it should be enough damage that I could just kill him. I don't know the dex, but I took much less damage eating that to the face than I would have dexing it because it's invade. So small stuff like that also plays a factor. And yeah, we should win. Yeah, we should win off that. Cool. If I would have blocked Bullseye Special 1, I would have lost easily like 10% of my health in invade. So stuff like that is like that little decision of I'm just going to try to dex it even though I know I'm going to get hit because I'm going to take less damage. And that situation, gave me the win. Kindred held it down on offense. But, Dog's pretty good for Kindred. So he could have finished that fight in full health if he played it better. Probably not as fast as I did Bullseye, but it was a potential option. So, I don't know. I hope that helped. I just kind of rambled on for 45 minutes. I apologize, but that's kind of what this video was always going to be at the end of the day, right? I informed you guys on that. I hope you found it helpful. If you have any questions, which, I don't know, because of the way I structured this, you probably will, leave them in the comments. I'll be sure to answer. And yeah, if you want more specific style of video for any of these subjects or just more tips and tricks videos in the future, let me know. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something at least, and I hope it benefits you. Just remember, at the end of the day, the more you play, the better you get, the more you learn, and it's more about matches played than it is about winning. So, yeah, good luck with your pushes, And yeah, thank you.